Okay, so hi, hey, everyone. Yes, let's start. Hey, Mario, um, and everyone else, Isabel, Carol, Kim, Noha, um, Susie, and Una. Okay, so hello to everyone, mostly in Europe, and one from Egypt, Dubai. Good to see you. A lot of interesting questions. We're going to go into some construction elements today. Um, and this would be useful for practicing facilitators, people doing hands-on. Um, it's always interesting to understand how the mechanisms work. Um, so this is going to be a little bit advanced in terms of inquiries taking place in how music holds a space, how music is changing, how there are um, evolutions taking place at the moment. Um, Mario sent some questions the last week, no, the last days, and I told him we can go over it in a studios call, particularly because um, techniques relate to theory, tools relate to theory, practice relates to theory. And a lot of the changes that we're working on is based upon our growing understanding of things. So studios would be the space to go over these, despite the fact that the intensive community is where we are hosting more advanced practice elements. So what we've noticed is when people are exposed to initial space holding techniques, this is what they hold for the long time. And over the last years, when we would introduce new ways, these would be the first duels people would conduct. And there would be transition areas in communities that are kind of used to things being done a certain way, as opposed to communities that are starting out with what are the new ways. The experiences would be determinable by how things work in that regard. Um, so yeah, I'm trying to look for um, what a theme or some thoughts around these would be. Music is really just a tool so that the way you understand things, the way you hold the energy would be expressed in music. Music is the tool of the energy itself. You have to see it that way. Depending on the intent of consciousness to hold itself, like music would be an expression. And we're interested in non-verbal expressions that's to do with what is nonlinear, what is able to hold a lot more energy flow rather than thought forms. Um, we would be open to the changes that are happening in the music. And so in Maya, these changes are happening quite often. Um, we're well equipped here. It hasn't always been that way, but we actually have right now a lot of power. In the past, we didn't have electricity sources, so we were lucky if we had lighting at night. So for those who haven't been here, we had installed like a superpower solar system, and it doesn't run out. So no matter how many people are here, and we have refrigerators, washing machines to help run the retreat. So for those who are used to the old Maya, it's really quite lit up as a mountain. And that did something to the energetic spaces that we hold in terms of the studio work, for one. We're able to hold a lot more information that we were used to in the past, and this is what we're streaming through the internet. So even though we're surrounded by nature, we actually have the space here to conduct experimentation. So um, not only do we have the power, we also have every kind of possible synthesizer mode here. So we've tried all of it. We've tried what you can find in a phone, in a digital audio workstation, in a DJ program, music editing software, synthesizer, Groovebox, sampler, and we've asked people to lay down on these live. You know, we would have people from Europe, from the US, from different parts, and it's sort of like an energy laboratory that's not cornered by a specific culture. So it's not conservative in that way. And this is what we've always done. We've experimented a lot. So as you know, we've only opened up Maya for guesting last January, and it's only March, but we're on the way to closing the second round, and I think we're gonna have a third round come April. There would still be people here, so the experimentations continue. Um, so yeah, we have access to the tools, but also because this is what we do, we start the sessions as soon as 7 o'clock in the morning. We set the alarms at 6:30 a.m. We're lucky if there wasn't a Zoom call at 2 o'clock in the morning. So it's pretty much inner dance day in, day out. This is what we live and breathe. There's pretty much very little else that we do right now that's inner dance from like a global or local space. So from a Studios Mundos channel, we're always happy to be in conversation over what is taking place in the laboratory. And the laboratory is really, really global in a way. So here's where we can check what are the parameters that are being pushed into next level. There are a lot of people who aren't really in creation yet, and that's fine. The more we can talk about it, it could open you up to tools and techniques. So Mario would be one of the people around the world who dove deep into this. Like I was traveling through Europe, and I've been in conversation with the Spanish for about 3 years now, maybe 3.5, maybe 3, maybe even less. My mind's not so good with time. And I've been speaking to facilitators, of which there are now hundreds, people holding space. We have quite a few Spanish people come in here to Maya. We have several here right now, and several still coming. I told them early on that you, there are a lot of people who are using the very old style inner dance playlisting ways, which is through the Spotify thing. We didn't have Spotify maybe 14 years ago, 15 years ago when we started the thing with the music, but it's still pretty much the same, the way we used to use iTunes off of the phones, the way people are using sequential song lines in Spotify. It's pretty much the old ways inner dance used to hold, now that it's coming with new names. And a lot of the experiences that we're seeing is pretty much the same experience we saw 14 years ago. So my advice to space holders is that you can advance the understanding of brain waves and vibratory mechanisms, mental states, space and time by getting interested in this. And at one point, there would be people who would be interested. So I've been doing quite a lot of online journeys lately, not just through Inner Intensive and Studios Mundos, but I've been invited to a lot of the ongoing trainings happening globally, and I've had a chance to conduct a lot of the music work, and the feedbacks keep coming in. It's just been intense, like amazing. It's I can barely actually read into the kinds of experiences people are having. So as far as my awareness is concerned right now, because I'm also channeling the space, a lot of the music that's coming through me is actually designed for where people are at the moment, where the energy is quite intense, Spain included, which is why I mentioned that. um I think most of the online sessions I was invited to was in Spain, and we're getting quite a lot of inquiries as to what are you doing that's not the same. It seems to be taking people a lot deeper. So Mario was one of the people in Spain who took notice of this and is studying this and is now conducting trainings that's not so much just about the the way to hold bodies, of which a lot of people are already holding bodies, pressing the play button. Mario's training is actually to help people figure out the music. So I pushed him to go into Ableton lately, and he's been going into that. So before we go into some of the tools and techniques, I just felt that this is important, that when you look at certain tools, there are corresponding theories there, and we're not doing it for the sake of doing it. It's because um okay, I had a major insight today when I was holding one of the sessions with Italy. I realized that um it's not always easy to arrive at some of the knowledge structure or tools and techniques in inner dance when one isn't actually aware of how things began. Do you know what I mean? It's like over 16 years, the energy grew really slowly, from simple methods, and then the brain and the body was able to handle more. So there are so many stories about how people changed their lives all around the world. But then there's a story of how the space holding started to change. Music was a big part. So I have this strong memory of when the womb broom was first being shared globally, how people in Finland, Ahilan and Noha and Italy were there when it first came out, and then they were invited to introduce it in a big festival. Some of you might have heard the story. There was a lot of transition in how that community that was primarily at that time inner guidance based, how they had to go through a kind of switch or sort of transition. And it was not an easy transition. What I'm trying to say here is if people in the community are used to energy being held in a specific way because it was introduced in that way, there will be a specific vibration. There will also be a dimensionality in time and space that will be particular to there. And the longer that's held, people kind of get used to it. That when that's held, they will travel there consistently. So when then you hold a different theory and a different set of tools, people will go through a switch. Sometimes the switch is going to be popular, sometimes it's not. So I remember the friendly, interesting debate that happened between Noah Island and and Italy when they were debating, should we do this? Is this okay? I remember the reactions of Lee's and Lee's insurance community in Cape Town when they started to introduce this womb room thing. It was quite deep. Like people were saying, wow, this is not for beginners. This is not for the average people. Now, it was exactly the same in Bahay Kalipay in Palawan. When we introduced it, there were people who were used to the old style of inner dance, and when Womb Room came, um, the people who were used to the other thing, they were like, "Oh my God, this is so scary." But it got to a point where some communities actually got sick of the music, and then they started to acclimatize to the womb room and the whale song and a lot of that other deep story stuff that were taking place around 2018, I think. But then there were these communities that were introduced in the beginning through womb room and through whale song, and then that was the norm. There was no transition. They didn't understand anything else, and that was for them inner dance. So then comes more evolutions in the usage of there was DJ Pro prior to that was doing something in terms of conducting layers, conducting loops. And then when Logic Pro and devices like that, Audacity came in, something shifted back into music that held a little bit more time to a lot of the space that was taking place. I guess if I could draw this and we could make this visual a little bit, it could help. See that if this was the usual playlisting style that had the 12 stages inputted, 1 2 3 4 5, 6 would be here, 7 8 9 10, 10 would be here, 11 would be there, and 12 would be there. What Womb Room did was now it's back. Okay, it flattened the space so that there was this dominant delta energy that was holding down the body from going into the usual energy rising mechanisms. But what was actually hiding in Womb Room and Whale Song is there was a lot of white noise energy that was hosting a lot of gamma frequencies and even beyond, the faster frequencies that go beyond gamma. So in a way, this whole okay, this is messy from a previous talk, and when I open them later, I can't erase. Don't have time to download the it was holding a lot more REM state as opposed to a lot of the non-REM that leads to deep sleep and then REM state. Meaning people were going into REM state a lot quicker, and that in fact is a little bit scary for some people because it's a really quick transition, and the highest waves are being held in a way that those oscillations weren't so present in older styles of music that was using more conventional song structures and song vibrations that are acceptable on radio and entertainment, as opposed to what we're doing, which is entrainment. So we warn people about this now. We tell people who come to Maya, if you're going to introduce these to your community, you really need to do a lot of context building before you rock the boat. Because when you create alterations in the way you do things, there are addictions and there are patterns that are at work. It's formative in the way that what you were exposed to when you were young would formulate how you would be as an adult. So because when we become baby like, they say that by the time you're 6 years old, the rest of your life would have actually been determined based on how you've already pruned away all of the intense connectivities your brain was holding in the beginning. So depending on when inner dance is introduced, at what year, you can actually start to formulate, if it didn't go through the motions, what the vibration is going to be. So a lot of the popular brands or movements that came from inner dance actually stored the original and the ways the energy was holding, especially the Kundalini world right now, in terms of how inner dance used to be held, because that's the way trainings were were being given in 2016 and 2017, after which the Kundalini thing would be founded in 2018. But a lot of the changes actually took place in the beginning of 2018, when the deep story structure started to come about. You know, deep story was more of an exploration into deep history, whereas a lot of the older style playlists were more modulated towards emotional, personal processes. Deep story was interested in the evolutionary status of the human being, where ego death is taking place, and there were these explorations that have been happening. I mean, since the beginning of inner dance, where people would go back to the womb and then go back to an old memory of what we were like, not just thousands of years ago, but like ancestral, but by the, you know, like the inner dance is also going back to the original state of the human. So pushing the boundaries is a part of that movement. And I think now we're just learning to refine things, and it's quite early, into certain programs. So the dialogues are really important, and I'm really fascinated by the ones who are traversing and going ahead anyhow. A deep story is summer 2019. Oh, okay, it could be. I don't, yeah, maybe. I don't remember. I thought it was 2018. Okay, could be 2019. Thank you, Anuka. You were here in Palawan when that was happening. So Mario, you had questions. I wanted to frame your questions first before going into this. Maybe you can check in on your own evolutions, how you're experimenting, what the feedbacks are there in Spain on the differences, how your own training went. You just unmute.
Yeah. Okay. Hi, bye. Hi, everyone. So yeah, after the inner intensive training last year, I created this kind of a training to teach people how to create playlist. So that was the beginning of an exploration of, and go deeply on the playlist creation itself. So by trying to send the message to the students, to the people that came to the training, I realized that I went very deeply inside on the playlist journey, on the 12 stages journey, and I was teaching and learning at the same time. And after the training, after 1 month's training, this I don't like to call them students. I like to call them friends. They create a sort of playlist, and it surprised me a lot, because the journey was amazing. It was fantastic. We used the playlist of their playlist on our sessions many times, and our session that I realized with my girlfriend Walita, there are not a lot of movements. Only 5% of the people they experiment a lot of movements, but all the rest, our sessions are more. I don't know. We create like a sort of state of visions. The people are able to remember something in the past. They're able to meet again with a person that is not in their life anymore, a grandma, someone that's, and they are able to check, to live, to meet again, and see how they can resolve some kind of problem. A lot of vision, a lot of animals, they can convert themselves in animals, and everything. All these kind of journeys are made with songs, basically. Till today, I use only songs, but not my songs, but songs that, like on the training that we did with you, Pi, we're looking for songs in YouTube and mixing song depending on the speed, on the frequencies, instruments, and etc., etc. So now the next step, with Ableton is totally different, because you have to create. You have a huge library of sounds. You can do everything you want. Like I told you, the next day you told me, just Mario, you can start to check Ableton, no? And I started to have a look on the library. It took me 2-3 days, 20 hours per day to find, only to listen a little bit of each one. And I wrote you a message like, Pi, this is like a black hole, a reverse. It's like a white light spreading everything in the universe in the same time. So it's you can do everything, and that's a lot, possibly too much for me. My way to create music, I like to play a lot of instruments. I'm not professional, but I'm curious. I use my intuition to understand how to play, and I was like, I would like to find a way to set up, the basic instruments, the basic devices, like one synth, I don't know, one drum machine. So I have a list of 4 or 5 things that maybe I can use. First, play with them, try to understand how they works, and then create, and then start to play with them, and just let Ableton recording, just to let myself to play, to create, and follow my 12 stages, my way to create a playlist. If it's 60 minutes, 90 minutes, 3 hours, I don't know what will be. Because with Ableton, you can create one part, one by one. And that's, for me, like I call it like a cold method. You can do it, you can create a beautiful thing, but for me, it's not so intuitive. It's not so pure, if I can give it a name. So that's why I wrote you, okay, Pi, that's fantastic, but I would like to understand, okay, I have the NTS1, iPad Pro, so there are a MIDI controller. So I think I have to just understand how to set up that. And then maybe in the future also use Ableton to add some stats and etc. So this is the situation in Spain.
Okay. I've been doing experiments as well for the last years, and there are certain things for me that work in holding the energy well, so that my intuition can play and not have to go kind of cold. But because I do know Ableton really well right now, I don't have to think about it. I have the right methods that allow me to construct, maybe design a playlist that could run for an hour to 2 hours, and my setup time would be about 5 to 10 minutes, maybe, if the studio is set up. But I'm going to be traveling again in the middle of the year, and I may not want to work on Ableton so much anymore. So I'm interested in using my body and not having to deal with the screens a lot. So I want to introduce some things to you guys today that I'm using right now. And like Mario, Mario's interested in what is a hardware that I could use that's portable, not so expensive, heavily expressive, can massively hold the vibrations with a wide range. So what you want is basically a Pandora's box, a kind of box that when you open it up, there's realms, kingdoms, like magic within. So let me do a screen share with the camera. So I'm not in the studio. I'm not in the studio table. I'm in a simpler table, and I'm able to wait. This is weird echo. Okay, I'm not able to. I forgot my sense. So these are things that I've got last year that I find extremely useful, but I didn't actually use them so
Hi,
much.
there is an echo.
Yeah,
Sorry.
wait.
Yeah.
That's happened before. I don't know what to do with it.
It was the option on Zoom on your Mac or devices.
Okay.
You have to switch off the one on the right.
Here. You mean this one? No, but then that's the Zoom audio.
I cannot see the screen.
Oh.
I cannot see the screen.
Yeah.
It was related about with Zoom. Yeah.
It was
on the
this
right,
one.
on the corner, right corner.
This one.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, I
So
think
what
so.
happens if I turn that off? But then I'm wondering.
Yeah, it worked.
I'm wondering if I play the instruments. Do you hear music right now? Yes or no? Mario. No, you don't.
Yeah, I can see. I can hear something.
You can hear music. Okay, wait.
Something is not so clear, but.
Oh, and then is that clear?
Yeah. Now it's clear.
Oh.
Yeah, just when you have to play, just turn it on, and that's it. I think like we did the last time. I think so. I think that's the only solution.
Yeah, I guess that's what we could do. Okay, I guess we can't have both things happening. If we can't live with the echo, then we'll just do clunky. Okay, so I guess you're seeing my screen. Let me see. Let me share the anyway, let me talk about it and then I'll demonstrate it later. So this is something that I acquired last year and I knew I needed it. It's basically a workstation that is DAW-less. DAW-less is what it's called. DAW is Ableton, Logic Pro, and when you say DAW, you need to work with this screen. That's really psychedelic. That's trippy. If I didn't want to work with the screen, I would work with something that just has these knobs and these pads. And it took me some days to understand what this means, what that means, what this means, what that means, what that means, what that means. All of these do pretty much like different things. So the more I got used to it, it became pretty much a body-based activity as opposed to a mental activity. It's like learning an iPhone or learning like a laptop, learning Zoom. So they look the same, right? This one I want to demonstrate to you. It's basically important. It's a sampler. And the recent playlists that I conducted live, the recent one, the last one, it was primarily just using this one, and this particular one. right here. And I didn't know how to create a process that would make it inner dance based, because the kind of sounds that were coming from it was quite musical, and it wasn't holding the energy textures that I am primarily used to. So based on your question, Mario, what is a next piece of hardware that would be interesting beyond like the NTS1? This is something that Joanna from Helsinki uses. Ahilan and Fanny have it as well, and it's really useful in creating the super high waves. Or this is frequency, this is pitch. So the highest pitches that I'm able to create, I can get off of this. So I can play Ableton using this, or Noise app with this in the background. This allows for the high oscillating frequencies that I'm not usually able to reach. So I've been using this more and more. I find it particularly interesting. So it's basically like a sampler. As an example, we've been working a lot with the Noise app. So a lot of facilitators are dependent on this right now, that this is not holding the big waves. So in Maya, very often this is all we hold, like specific sounds, it's noises, and it's not even music. There are a lot of things that I really love here, but what I've been wondering about is how can I construct certain elements that hold like time in a way that I can hold in inner dance. So if I do a shared screen, let's look at some apps that used to hold it traditionally in inner dance. Okay, wait, I need to turn on the so that's the loop option in DJ Pro. And that's something I started to use in 2015. And a lot of people mention the word loop quite a lot. What does it mean to create a loop? Loop is about holding circular time. So when we use music, the loop is usually absent. And when you use Ableton, the loop is kind of inbuilt there through the clips. So when you make a clip, when you make a recording, you can loop it. So songs don't really have the loops because time experience in music is not circular in nature. Music is discursive. So if you were listen to a song, it needs to unravel in time. It's not like looking at a picture that's not time related, it's spatial in nature. It's based in space. So what happens when people start going in a loop? Like we talk about this often. When you get loopy, we say you kind of get spacey. Something happens to the brain in a way that you're not able to. It's like you're going around in circles. There's something very spiritual about it. I was describing it in Maya today, where in the Philippines there would be these instances where, like, I heard these stories from my uncles and my dad's friends, where they would be driving down the road or biking or even walking in a road, and suddenly they pass by like a person on the side of the road, and then a couple of minutes later they would be going in alignment and they'd see that same person again, and then they keep going on and then they see the same person again. I heard this story so many times, so many different people, that there's this actual loopiness in our experience of the earth, that you can actually go around in circles. So based on tradition, what the local Filipinos are supposed to do is stop the car, stop the bicycle, stop walking, take off the shirt, and then put it on inside out. And then how they used to tell it is they would break the loop. So I'm pretty sure a lot of you watched the movie Groundhog Day. Remember Groundhog Day? It was this movie where the guy just lived one day. He got stuck in the same day. And there are a lot of movies that have come out that are based on this idea of getting stuck in a loop. And though it sounds like a terrible idea, it actually also posits this concept that you can improve the day because you would get to know all the options in that day so well that the unknowability of life would be gone, and you could start to play because you realize that you can't die. You're just stuck in this day, sort of like in a game that has all these scenarios, and depending how you play, different outcomes could come about. So the loop happens in the psychedelic journey, and I've talked to people in ayahuasca or in magic mushrooms. I've seen the loop happen in inner dance where sometimes people would wake up from a dream and then wake up from another dream, wake up from another dream, and everything seems to be one moment that keeps repeating itself. There's something about the self-correction mechanism in the loop whereby each moment probably holds a kind of loop. Each moment holds this potentiality that you've lived this day over and over and over again. And somehow this particular moment holds the highest potential. So if you had a way to hold that awareness that there's no right or wrong, there's no life or death, there's actually infinity hidden in every point in time. That is the reason why in the inner dance structure you might be interested in breaking the line. All right. So so when I hold the noise app, I can break the loop based on the fact that I'm not holding the pulse or the rhythm. But I was interested in how do I hold the circularity still in a way that the constant repetition but subtle changes could allow for differences in like time and space structures. So when I look at these devices, like this one in particular is interesting because okay, what this does, and I wish I was more prepared. Sorry, Mario and others. The circuit rhythm is by Novation, and what it is it's a sampler. So I can basically connect a microphone here. I don't have a microphone ready beside me, and I can basically go around the room and then I could take a sound. So the sound could be like that's a sound, or I could scratch something. We demonstrated it here. And I could record it into a specific slot. Here, I would record it and then it would be there, and then I could create a loop. So I can construct a song out of the sounds in the room in a couple of minutes if I was quite intuitive about it. So I wanted to demonstrate how I could use the noise app so that if I wanted to construct a song structure, which I normally cannot using just this, I'm using it as a you know, a kind of metaphor idea that because nature sounds are recorded here, that it could actually be possible to make to still use song being a song structure, but at the same time to hold a lot more of the memory of nature, like in a way. Okay, so I'm gonna look through my noise app for interesting, useful things that might work within an inner dance space. So let's say what's common is the Indian drone. Okay. So now what you're hearing is the noise app, and it's running into the circuit rhythm, which is a sampler. Yeah, I can see this the rhythm. Yeah, it's this one. So,
Sorry.
Yeah.
But can you just put it on the main screen, please? Because I now can see on the small one, on the main there is a sleep cycle, or do
sure.
you need the sleep cycles?
You needed to see the sleep cycle?
Okay, no, I don't need it. Just
The
you
main
can
screen
switch
is on what? It's on the sleep cycle.
yeah. The main screen is on the sleep cycles. Yeah.
Good idea. Yeah. Content from basic and
You can do it on your own screen, Mario. Like you can do.
wait.
kind
Yeah,
of-
he can click, right? Slide
There's
yeah.
like division between the two that you can slide to the other side and make the other one bigger and like one bigger and the other one smaller.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd rather because
Sorry.
the share sound option is kind of important for if I was to make it the main screen.
Learn
Okay.
one more thing. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Saula. So I needed a cable that could run from the iPhone. If you have an iPad, it would be the small output jack. But here, the iPhones normally just have like a one cable, so you maybe need an adapter to go into an input option here. So that could be a microphone, or that could be actually what I discovered was just a phone. So when I play this, it would run through that system. So say I go into the sample, okay, let me go into the sample options. Let me create a new project here. And that's a new project. So, okay, never mind, just here. No, wait. No, let me create a new project. Something that's empty. Okay, so now I emptied the thing. There's nothing inside this, so I can fill it up with particular sound. So let's say press that, and then I press record. It's going to wait for me to put in a sound input. So now it's recording over here, and when I press stop, that sound is now sampled here in this slot here. Gra, if you're in this call, I saw your name. This is how your sampler works, basically, if you have already figured it out. Okay, so it's there. It's not running off of my iPhone anymore. It's on the sampler. So if I wanted to use it in a song structure, I would go into any of one of these 8 lines that record a set of sounds per, let's say, it could be a track. They're normally drum tracks. You can put in like synth tracks as well. So now this is recorded here. Okay, so I can put it on different areas that so I can basically start manipulating the sound based on quality. Okay, so this is a simple example because the drone is pretty much flat, but you already can create like a loop process within that. Let's look for something a little bit more complex. One of my favorite sounds in this is like an ancient instrument. It's called a bull roarer, and it sounds something like this. You know that thing that is swung by the Aboriginals that creates this So I particularly like that based on the kind of bass that it holds. So I want to record that. I'm gonna press this so I can make another slot. Going to record that, and I'm just gonna press this. Oh no, let me recapture that. I didn't actually I didn't capture the louder one. So let me repeat it. It's the second one. No, that's not loud. So I'm just gonna wait. Okay, let's say I'm happy with that third one. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to manipulate that sound. So when you see the yellow line that was here, that basically measures the length of the sound. So when I press it here, plays again. So I just need one of those that I want to sample. So this is the length here. So maybe, okay, no. No. I'm looking for a starting point. Can't find a good start. Ah, okay, that seems good. Okay, and that's all I wanted, let's say. So I'm gonna press save, and now that's a sample. Okay, so let's say I wanted to use that as a kind of baseline, do something like this. That's the sound, so I can manipulate it. Okay, so I'm just demonstrating what this would do. Let me go to a project that I created yesterday when we did the session where I constructed, I spent like an hour constructing a song that I ended up using in the live session that was based off of just the Noise app elements along with other sounds that I collected from other sources. Okay, these. So each of these is a track, it's a sound. Okay, this is a Noise app element. And Okay, I guess that um, serves to hold the point. Okay, actually, let me demonstrate how these two kind of work together. Now, this is a groove box. It's not a sampler. I can't input tracks from the outside world into it unless I download packs that I get from the internet. So this groove box has the option of performing two synthesizers. The MIDI tracks would be any external synth that I could control, like here. So one of them is actually this one, and the other one is connected to either the NTS-1 or the Dreadbox Nymphos. And then I have 3 drum tracks in here. So right. It's a bit soft. Why is that? Don't know why. Anyway, just like this one, I have these projects that I've inputted already, that I've based on sounds that I've collected, that are synthesizers and drum sounds. I can take them from any library. That could be a WAV file or an MP3. So, like these are the presets. And when you make a choice of whatever preset you're wanting, it goes to here. It's recorded here. These are drums. I don't know why there's no. I think it's because this is slow. It's weird. Anyway, this is a program that I've inputted. Ah, I know why now. It was off. Okay, so these are my drum tracks. So I can modify them at will. If I wanted to change the energy in this way, I just need to learn like basic patterns. So I could be in an airport, I could be in a bus station, I could be in a library, and because I've collected the sounds, I could just basically, if I'm bored, create, compose. Okay, so here's another drum sound. Okay, so let's say if I wanted to play this here, in case that was an option again. These are effects. Okay, so yeah, that's enough. Don't want to bore you. I think the point I'm trying to make here is that music, like all languages, like all things human that we use to communicate and to function, everything is made up of tiny little parts. And when you construct something out of those parts, what you have is a whole. And then that whole will become a part of another larger whole. So when I walk around in Maya, when I hear a sound, and if I feel, oh, I need this, I like this would vibrate in the playlist, because you know that I can just record the sound right here. I don't need to be carrying the circuit rhythm with me with the mic. I just need to record it. It could be the simplest, like leaf crackling. It could be, I showed you like this one, it had no music. It sounds like music, but everything was actually pure noise. there's something about the quality of it that's different, that seems to be holding a lot more of the sounds of nature that the human being isn't always. It's not human. It's coming from the mother. It's coming from the earth. And when you hear it, it kind of brings a different level. That's what I'm hearing anyway, coming from some of the emails that I'm getting from the live session and the sessions that we've been holding here. Then you become more of a harvester, like a collector, so that it could be the sound of your mom's voice. It could be like a baby. It helps you to listen. So if you know how to put those parts together, what some of these tools do is it can easily loop something within a song structure, within a 4-bar or 8-bar, 16th notes, 18th notes. You know, it can help you to arrange so that you don't need to, when you find a vibration in the world that's interesting, and there are infinite vibrations which we are using to affect people's brains and bodies, you can hold continuity so that you know where it's stored, and then you can construct something out of that. And then if you wanted another project, you know where it's stored, and that could be based on a musical idea. You know, like it could start with a theme. Okay, I want to think about aliens, so I want to put my alien structures somewhere. Or I'm interested in insects, I'm interested in birth. So basically you're able to categorize your mind using tools that puts vibrations into folders, because we could easily, wait, sorry. I don't like the echo. We could easily do that on the laptop here. You know, I have my songs, classical music. It's just like piano stuff that I find interesting. Electronic would be these different categories, which were useful when I was using Logic Pro or DJ Pro. So I knew where the sounds were. So either I could sample something from these. So, okay. Alien talking. Okay, I've got a small folder just in that, and here like spaceships that were useful for some of the past projects. But even without, let's say, doing this, you can maybe compartmentalize it within a hardware system that's not so like screen based. And there's so much creativity with how some of these are made. So I think we deserve to be artists in this regard, and artists have like a certain discipline. I think one thing important to say is when you learn a new tool, when you learn a new technique, you have to change your brain. That's why you want to study the options first. So I think Mario has the right idea of, okay, don't want to buy that yet, because the thing that I showed you is just one example of a sampler, and there are samplers that are this small. There's samplers that are this big, and some samplers can just be downloaded as an app. I have them in my phone, so that since you can record off your phone anyway, it could actually be more portable. I just don't like working with these when I'm in the session, because I prefer the knobs and the pads. It's not as confusing, especially when I'm in a hurry, which is what a lot of DJs and musical producers like to do. So when I make a commitment, it's actually quite deep. It's like each of your tool is like a soulmate, and that is going to change your brain. You have to order your brain, because if you know where you're going to put your stuff, and based on the work we do, we're working on vibratory stuff. If you know where to put your stuff in, it's not so messy. It's not scattered across, like, is it under my bed? Is it in that pocket in my bag? It's all in one place, is what I'm telling you. And there's so much continuity in it. So when you work with Novation, you would need to have a program or a system that would categorize, this is Novation components, and any components, any innovation product that you own is manageable through here. So these are just some of the packs that are instantaneously coming with a product. I have a lot more. They're hidden somewhere, but just to give an example. Okay, maybe let's just open. So let's say, let's just wait a bit. So it will need to interact with your laptop still, so that your laptop has a lot more memory. So I guess one question I'm going to answer that hasn't been asked is, the things come with an SD card. So like here, I can store the memory here. Okay, and then I can change it if I run out. I can just put more in, like a different size or different type. So let's go back to components. Okay, it's still loading. It's a big one. I really filled this up. This is like the InnerDance pack. And maybe this is going to help you to visualize how it kind of works. It's a whole system. Okay, so these are samples. Wait. There's 4 pages of these, but this Zoom thing just won't go away. I guess I only have, 2 pages. I normally have 4. And then these are the synth options in just one project, right? Sorry, one pack. And I have like a lot of packs that you saw recorded in the Secret Rhythm. And these are the projects. So a project is made up of samples and patches that have already been programmed into songs. So if I wanted to like move this around here, or I wanted to drag, let's say, okay, I've got this kick that I really like, I'm gonna replace that. And let's say I have like a snare drum, a clap, that could very well be like alien sounds, or white noise, like a drone from India, sound from Africa, from China. You just drag it. You can arrange them here, and they can drag and drop according to which project is kind of holding that. So if you're lazy, what you can do is log on to the internet, and there are multiple websites where for, let's say, $10, you can buy like a pack with corresponding projects that were pre-made by some DJs. And if you don't like it, you can just actually alter the sound, so you can change some of the presets. And there you go. You have like a whole set that could play for hours and hours and hours. That's going to be according to your the way you define the energy that you hold. Okay, so I want to see if there are questions arising from some of this. I hope this answers some of your questions, Mario. Like where I'm speaking from is what am I using now that I find useful in inner dance that's kind of studied over the years. I've tried out many things. I'm still using my Moog modular synths. I'm still using my Korg Minilog XD. I'm still using the Volca keys, but the ones that I feel I would be using that's portable for my lifestyle would be the things that I showed you, because I can take things from the world and put it there, and they're so light to carry. My other synths are just so big. I don't like when I was traveling through Spain last year, I was looking around like 2 big bags of instruments, and I'm not like a rock and roll person like that who has to carry so much to express the nature of vibration that emanates through the inner dance. Okay, so questions?
You can you connect the NTS1 and control it with the tracker, so you can control the speed of the arpeggiator, the arpeggio of the NTS1, so it can control everything basically.
Yes.
So with the
it
looks like a physical Ableton. It could be,
yeah,
because you have a lot of effects and you can manage it. So it would be better, no? Because you have a pack of sounds, you can decide how to put it in sequence, loop it, and then manipulate it as Ableton, basically, no?
Actually, to answer that question, to go into that insight, Mario, a lot of the products of this company actually grew out of Ableton. So when you know the Launchpad, the one with the it's by the same company. So they probably modeled a lot of these to make these more standalone energies. But to answer your question, no, my phone works now as a secondary camera. Wait, it's clear. Right. Okay, so you can see this. Can you see? Okay, wait. So there are these cables anyway. This is a MIDI in and MIDI out. So this cable, this is MIDI out. It goes to this one, so it can. There are parameters where the clock can be transported here without, because normally the sequence will influence the sequence of this, and I don't like that. So I had to learn how to access settings. So this turns on the clock, and then this can turn off the other sets of information that would be sent here. So that's maybe the simpler, the more complex part. And this one, I had to toggle the switches so that this one would control like this synth here. So anything that comes out of here as a sequence this requires a controller. So this acts as a sequencer and a controller for that. But to answer your question, because you have an NTS1, this comes with a sync out function. It doesn't have a sync in. So there's a cable that runs from here to here, because you know that there's a sync in out option in the NTS1. So they'll run in the same clock. And if you're in Ableton, it's going to be synced if you have if you have one of these, like an audio interface. If you don't, then you'll be stuck there. Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. No, that was a question, because if you use both together and you want to have everything synchronized, and the other question is basically with that one you can create because between my device I feel like I need something that creates drums, something that I'm able to use physically, to have a bass, a drum bass, and the MIDI controller, Akai MIDI controller has only 8 pads, and it's pretty limited. So I think that one, the first one you use, that could works. So I think that could be the missing part at the moment. It could be enough to complete and have a range of sounds and integrate everything, all the stuff. I think it could work.
A lot of
I don't know
music.
if I will.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of music producers actually depend on these devices, and the circuit tracks is quite popular. I actually don't know what's better for inner dance. That's why I have both of them. The circuit tracks allows you to hold the extra synth options, which the sampler does not. But I found out that because there's the input for you to plug in your phone or your mic, you could actually just plug a synth in it, and then you just need to press on monitor, so it acts as a mixer. And because you can connect the sync out option to the NTS1, there are certain things the NTS1 can do. This really small synth is such a powerhouse that it creates certain sounds that are just so like interesting. So I would suggest the circuit rhythm would be the way to go, because
Circuit rhythm, yeah.
Because like you could even have workshops where you could just harvest the sounds from the room. It could be someone crying, someone screaming, someone breathing. So this idea that people can lay down to the music of the room itself, something that doesn't come outside. What would that be like? I think that would be an interesting workshop experience, right?
Yeah, you can use it and mix it and then replay it again. So it creates a big loop.
It
a live
creates
loop.
a big loop.
Yeah, a live big loop. Yeah, it could be.
Mm.
Yeah, thank you to this very deep explanation.
Yeah. Actually, like we held a Zoom call for studios in the past that went into Simpler in Ableton. So even Ableton has samplers because everything's in Ableton. But because your question is hardware, I'm not probably going to use Ableton sampler anymore because I actually have this with me. But just to let people know, it's inside Ableton as well.
Yeah.
I have a question. It seemed like when you were playing different tracks that one stopped the other. Like, are you able to layer parts of different?
Yeah, totally. Because they're synced with the MIDI in out. So okay, watch this. It's a separate machine. If I press this, it comes on. Even this one would be the same. So let's say I put in the arpeggio option. I'm pretty sure it's connected. If I press play and then I go to the tempo, check it. Notice the lights. But the sampling capacity, it doesn't actually change. But I can control the speed of this with this one. So when you make a series like these, you basically have to decide on what is the master. So currently this is the master. Normally Ableton is the master, and then this is the slave, and then this routes to the circuit rhythm and all the other synths that I have that have these in and out elements. So again, like watch this play button, or actually this is more visual. It's the same speed. Okay? And, this is the tempo. This is the speed. It's fast. I want to slow it down. It's 40. I can measure it accurately. It's 40 beats per minute. And if I want to stop that, we'll just press the stop here and 7 things. Yeah. Yeah. It's everything. It's got a built-in mixer, so you can control the sound volume, the sound textures of each of the track one at a time. You just need to kind of remember, where did I put that again? because since in the circuit rhythm there's 8, it's easy to forget. So sometimes what I do is I'd actually get a piece of tape and then I'd write down, okay, the drone is there. Because I'm working, as you Saulo know, I'm working with a lot of gadgets. So when I have a mixer, when I have a groove box, I need to remember what is where. So when I'm toggling, especially like in an online journey, I know where I put certain things. Yeah, okay. Are there any other questions about these? And then we can go into other topics for this call. Not so much. And anyone who's last takers while we're on the subject? If not, it's good.
I don't have a question about what you said, but I wanted to share something about the session that I did on Sunday. I haven't been able to get into Ableton. Like it's been a long conversation between us and we're not there yet. But I wanted to do music live for the first time after a long time that I couldn't do it the old way anymore. And I went because I wanted to tell the story of Egypt, like my whole trip and like what happened there and the lessons I had, like the informational peaks and the surrenders and what came out of that, like the waves of Egypt that I experienced. And the only way I could do it was with sounds that I recorded there. And so I used, at the end, I just used DJ Pro. And of course, it's limited because it just has limited space to loop things. But yeah, I even had Noha's voice praying and many things that I just looped and layered. And it was probably like I couldn't experience the space myself, the sound, because I was so much into creating it, because things seemed so small and I had to be like producing it all the time. Like I couldn't just leave it for a long time going. So I couldn't experience the music through the space that much, but the sharings were one of the deepest I've heard. So yeah, I wasn't sure if it was the music or the timing or what, but it something was very powerful there. I did record the DJ Pro thing, but as I learned also my noise, I don't have that part. Maybe one day I will sit down and just create a playlist with it, with what I learned. So I wanted to share.
Yeah, this is beautiful. Something similar happening here, where there are a lot of people who are coming from the more intense inner dance experiences that are happening globally, whether it be Kundalini or inner dance. The trainings have just kept on getting passed on, and people come with a lot of the movements, like a lot of the physical expression, but over the weeks, the longer they stay here, the movements kind of go away. And there's something similar to what Mario is saying about people are beginning to see visions that they never did. They're seeing the colors, they're seeing the images. So there's something transformative about the way the brain states are headed towards another region, and also another way of spreading activation. This is something I'm kind of going through right now, because here's the thing, if I could just describe it. Okay, so in the last Zoom calls, you've been talking about like these sleeping playlists and how we're able to pull the REM state to an earlier state time. Okay, just to rehash in this, just a moment. The insight in this was that it took a human person sleeping like this long to experience long REM state, which is when magic happens, and REM state in the first 1.5 hours to 3 hours, it's pretty short. It gets a little bit longer here. Second, that's in the third to the fifth hour. So this is the most inner dancey, and it takes 7 to 8 hours for a person to reach that. So a lot of the older style kind of accesses some of these initial stages, and if they're lucky, they can go here. So the releases would be here. People cry, people get the high, people get the bliss, but a lot of the visions like happen here. So we've been having to reformulate a lot of the sessions to be able to access it sooner. So one of the insights there is actually the playlists don't even need to last that long if people can attune in certain ways quicker. And it's not a shortcutting. It's more of not giving them too much of a stimulus response system that's coming from an externality. It's just to give them a glimpse of something that's already inside. So these new systems that are coming up are tools to allow this to happen. So thank you for what you shared, Saula. This is like an amazing tool we won't give up, like the DJ Pro possibility. But like what we're seeing would be more of the expression of high oscillating frequencies that are coming back. So we had this really interesting guest who visited us, who's from Belgium. Her name is Christelle, and she's currently writing her story down so it can be shared. So basically was in a series of accidents in 1994, which is like a long time ago. And like you, that happened to you recently, Saule. It was a car accident, the last one, and it was pretty bad. She ended up in a coma for 3 weeks. So after that, she was just never the same. She lost her speech, she lost her language, she had aphasia, she lost her mobility. She basically can't coordinate or synchronize her arms. So she basically, when she tries to do this, it would go like this. Or she tries to do this, it would go like that. It's not able to synchronize. So after 2 inner dances here, suddenly she found herself doing this for the first time in 30 years. So that's just one of the interesting things that happened. So she just went back home to Belgium, and her friends, her family just can't understand because she's not looping. Like her language is looping. She was loopy. Like she's trying to express something and she loses the words and she keeps saying the same words. So suddenly she can construct sentences in a straight line, following the rules of syntax and grammar, and having access to a vocabulary that was inside all along. So she's learning to contextualize. Basically, she had this really weird sensitivity to the sound, and there was something in it that was so resistant yet so open, so that when she was receiving the higher vibratory state, she'd say, "Oh no, don't do that. It's doing something to my brain." But even when she says, "Don't do that," there's something in her that's like, do it, do it, do it." So we just kept pushing it because it was seemingly doing something over the 3 weeks that she was here. So, okay, what I'm trying to get at in this situation is that there are people like this who have these broken brains that actually hold bigger fixtures that are inaccessible by normal brains. And it's highly intuitive and super powerful. It's like there's so much electricity passing through that's similar to some people here, including this other Belgian lady who's got this high sensitivity. So this heightened sensitivity seems to be holding a lot of the music here, and the vibrations are going higher and higher and higher. And what holds that vibration is going lower and lower and lower. What I showed you doesn't express yet where this is going, because we're still discovering, and we don't know. It will take a lot of time to create the balancing of it. So basically, where maybe like maybe this one, we're going for this more and more, and what would hold it most effectively is this. So a lot of the old inner dance tracks would emanate, let's say, something here, something here, something here. Now, what seems to be interesting is that we're going way beyond what we know as gamma. And the higher oscillations are like creating distances between the concepts that interconnect in the Hebbian way, the synaptic connections, the neural connectivities that are becoming possible in the physical and neurological spread is just going into other dimensions. So people are talking about the beings a lot more. There's a lot more strangeness, but at the same time, there's so much context that's able to hold it. So I'm actually quite challenged by where some people are at already, and then hosting dialogues here with doctors. We're working with quite a lot of doctors in Maya, some of whom we're in communication with who live in Europe. They're asking for like entry points that they can bring to their patients. So the sleep playlists were interesting because those are accessing brain states that are not really accessible when people are awake, so that the changes happen without resistance, but so as not to alienate the patients. We're having to construct these more there's more intensity, but it's much more relaxed. And it's not been easy because in Maya, we keep receiving people who are asking for mostly the intensity. So it's demanding so much time. Actually, like people are demanding, okay, I want more, but at the same time, there's a project that's saying, okay, we need less. So when we do the online processes, we're having to speak to all the groups all at the same time. And because our inboxes are filled mostly with people who want the intensity and are used to a certain frequency of vibration that's called like Kundalini or something. There's something that's being held back in terms of the studio work, because it would take even weeks to set up certain sound-based projects. And we're lucky because we do have like Yella from Belgium here, and we have Oscar as well from Mexico, who are both like trained musicians who are also inner dance facilitators, and there are other musicians on the island. We're just waiting actually for people to start leaving, which is going to happen Saturday, Friday, Saturday, and then we can go into the possibility of formulating something that can address all the situations. But at this moment, I feel really, really split between the nature of the activations that are authentically transforming people's lives in the world. And people are coming here with all these brains that are splattered and splashed, and it seems like sometimes that's what's holding the new range, so there's something especially about that Belgian 60-year-old woman, super conservative, used to be a nurse, hasn't been functioning properly in the last 30 years. We're still talking about her almost every day because it's almost miraculous what happened to her. But it's not really so much about the outcome only. It's about her brain. Like we've been talking about, like what's up with your brain, So I thought that might be interesting for you as well, to in your studying of music, that it's the music is always going to match the harmonics of intention and what people are bringing into the room. It's always going to vibrate off of what they're holding. So the facilitator being us, being people pleasing, we kind of want to give them what they need, but when we always do give them what they need, it creates a loop still, in a way, when in fact, like the original vibrations of the the early humans, or then the alien humans that are now walking around the earth, that are looking like humans, but they're not human. They're not in the same range. It's like when my mom found me in the island, and then I did my first inner dances with her. She got herself measured in a hospital or in a clinic before, and they couldn't measure her. Her electricity was beyond the human. There wasn't a machine that could measure her. So I think if there were machines that were measuring these people who were going into these states, and we do hope to get some of these more portable ones in Maya this year and next year. The measurements aren't sufficient enough to explain some of your brains, for example. So yeah, I thought that might be interesting. And to you, Saula, who's been going through not just accidents, but a lot of these breaking, your brain's probably like going through these. I think we're being made to choose what to hold. But bottom line that we're holding with Christelle is the vibration doesn't actually matter. What matters more is the context building. So what Christelle did when she went back to Belgium, we didn't tell her to start facilitating already. She was sharing some of these new playlists that are meant for dream spaces, and she's using them for inner dances, and people are kind of getting scared, like, oh, this is so much, it's chaotic. And there's something about the inner dance brain. When people go through awakenings in Kundalini, you actually find it hard to contextualize things. So I remember when we went to Mallorca before to Spain, I asked Christina, could you talk about your story in 2 paragraphs? She was like, what? Like, the story is really, really big, and you want me to do that. So it's a certain trick for a spacey mind or a loopy mind, a spiritual mind, to learn how to describe or explain. Those are the 2 different discourses. Either you're going to describe something, which is to point at something big, or to explain something, which is to dissect or to deconstruct it in many, many parts. To learn to describe and explain something within a short length is something that breaks the loop a little bit. It's becoming more concise and more clear, and it's a certain training. So I think this is what we need to work on. So the doctors gave us this impossible task of, like, could you explain to patients in 1 page what this is? I mean, could you do that? Could you just give me a 1-pager that totally explains what this is on a 1-page PDF that people could understand, that gives enough context so that they would go there, as opposed to medicine or chemotherapy or it's not a challenge that they're giving us. They're just requesting. They already believe in the thing, because they've been using these mechanisms that we've been putting out themselves, and on their kids and themselves and their mothers. But we're kind of needing to devote a lot more time in the next weeks to the translation from the energy into the thing that's written. So actually, at the end of the day, the nature of the vibration won't matter as much yet. The context would allow almost anything that you hold vibratorily to bring people into a lot of these possibilities, depending on what's happening to them in their lives. Okay, so either from any of these topics, or we can open this up to what you want to check in on, what's going on in your space. This being a studio's call. It's 4 o'clock here, so we've been together for 2 hours. Yeah, Saula, do
Can I
you?
share
Yeah.
one
Mm.
more thing? Just as you talked about the womb room in the beginning, and then about the sleeping playlist, it just somehow connects. It's a interesting thing that I've been using womb room to fall asleep, and it's like if I cannot fall asleep, I play it and I fall asleep like very quickly. And then if I wake up in the middle of the night, I cannot fall asleep again. I play it, and it works like magic. It's like a magical sleeping pill for me, and I don't know if anybody else have experienced this. Specifically, womb room somehow just does the trick. And when I sleep in places that are very triggering or loud, or like energetically not like soothing and easy to fall asleep in, just like I play it, even if it's like right next to my ear or headphones or whatever, it's just like I fall asleep. So I wanted to share this also.
The PDF documents in Deep Story went a lot into that babies are in REM state, but more especially the fetus. The fetus is in REM sleep, especially the fetus in the last stage, especially the last week. The baby would be experiencing REM more than any time in its whole life as an adult or as a child. Like the child would be sleeping 95% of the time while in the womb during the last week of birth, last week of being incubated in the womb. And then 95% of the time, the baby will be in REM state. So right now we're sleeping only 1/3 of the day, 6 to 8 hours, 8 hours. And then we're only experiencing REM state 15% of the 8 hours. So a lot what these Josh playlists, we don't need to call it Josh Josh anymore. What these sleeping playlists are doing is bringing us into REM state a lot sooner, and allowing it to be longer, so as to remind us of what it was like in the womb. So most healing happens in REM state. So because we put a lot of white noise along with the other, like arrhythmic, like non-rhythmic elements that are mostly made up of actual sounds that are inside the mother's belly. Of course, that would bring about the remembrance of what it was like when we're in there, which isn't just a small person. It's like a brain state. So those feedbacks are really actually quite interesting. But it's also interesting that when they were first used, I remember when Lee and Sharon introduced it in South Africa, people were super duper, they were scared. It was a good fear, but at the same time, they were saying, I don't think everyone can do this. This is so intense. So there's something about using it during sleep time where we're actually going into the energy of death when we sleep. When we sleep, we die. Our minds go into the cosmos or the womb, and then when we come back, we're back in time. That's when we lose REM state, and then go into wakefulness. It's interesting when you think of dolphins. I don't know if I mentioned it in another Zoom call, but dolphins have the highest brain capacity in all the known organisms, and they're actually in REM state all the time. So they can sleep, but a half of their brain would be awake. The REM state doesn't turn off. So it's like going into this womb state while awake is actually becoming dolphin-like in a way. Yeah. Okay, so
My new favorite emoji.
what?
I've been using dolphin emoji like everywhere. Now you told me why.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, we're becoming them. we're becoming the echolocator. You know, they have the sonar. They think differently based on how they translate sound into image, and then that's like through multiple directions. They're thinking oceanic. They can communicate across miles just through this telepathic way, right? Mario, did you unmute? Do you have ideas or
Yeah,
thoughts?
just a quick share, because we were talking about body effect and some healing systems with the playlist, and just I wanted to share that we had in the last few months we had more than 5 persons with fibromyalgia. I cannot pronounce very well this kind of fibromyalgia is the name. And after the session, they were able to forget and erase completely the effects for 2 or 3 weeks, and they were so happy. They were able to sleep, to work, to have their life, and living without feel any kind of pain, or the pain reduced like 80%, was completely off respect the day before the session. So, and I don't know why we had so many people with this kind of pain, this kind of things, but it is working some kind of way. As I repeat, we the people, they don't experience movement. All these kind of sessions, they were so quiet, completely quiet, sleeping in totally REM state. I think they had a lot of visions. They cried at the end by sharing their experience. So it looks like they were able to live and release something. There was like a kind of block inside there. And this kind of pain is created by some kind of blocks. I don't know, but it's something is working. Something is working. During the playlist, I just I have two picks. I created just with my noise some sounds in the delta state, and in the Eiger Gamma I had some Animoog effects. That what I did with them, and this kind of process, this kind of journey, it worked in some way, and they were so happy when we too. So that's this sharing about it.
I tried to write the one pager for the doctors, and it really helped me to outline the conversation in my mind. There has to be a paradigm shift. So if we're not going to call it inner dance, for example, and this thing that we're using, it's not even music, it can't be seen as music, then we would come up with a term such as like vibration is medicine. Something like that makes sense, because you're holding two concepts and you're creating a bridge, so it could be understandable. So when you take something like this, say, okay, something biological, something to do with the organs, are healed by the vibration, there has to be bridge work, so that, okay, now we understand the brain, which is part of the central and peripheral nervous system, the peripheral being the somatic and the autonomic. The brain and the spine and the whole nervous system helps to manage the rest of our functions, the cardiovascular, the digestive, the reproductive. So if you change the brain, you change the organs, the glands, the tissue, the nature of cells. If we're able to do that, then we would then need to explain that there are certain types of vibrations that would then affect the brain. There has to be like the ellipse, the ... then how? Because we've been studying this, because this is being experienced, because the practice has been consistent throughout the years. The way inner dance has been held is at least held by a similar wave, so that even when it was copy and pasted into other systems, the same wave was stored at least. Then this could be practiced, and then this could be altered somehow. But unless we're able to outline what the paradigm shift would be, vibration is medicine. Okay, there's something about brain entrainment. But there's also circadian entrainment, where the autonomic nervous system isn't just about the brain. So much of what happens in the brain is actually determined by what happens in the heartbeat, which is fear and trust. When there's resistance, when there's anxiety, the brain states would actually follow suit. Like all of these need to get interesting for doctors who aren't actually able to unravel fear, because a lot of doctors, it's pretty much chemical as medicine. And then a lot of doctors are discovering language, listening to people, contextualizing. It's like, oh, okay, words are medicine, context, information is medicine. But the doctors that I'm working with are also realizing, no, that's not enough. Because when you are stuck with the verbal, you actually get people into this problem solving, intentional, controlling, highly resistant way. You do need the nonverbal elements to assist. So there's like this whole cascade of topics that need to kind of come together. They need to be mapped out. They need to be interwoven. If we had empathy on what people are going through, what are they thinking about, whether it be they be the practitioner or the practitionee, those who are practiced upon. We need to meet them where they are at and understand where they're coming from. So the people who are coming to the sessions, at least, they are a lot readier than people who aren't yet seeing that vibration actually can heal. So these stories are incredibly important, and we're asking for feedback. We're asking for stories because not because we want to prove what we're doing in a biased way. We just need the data. It's really important we start understanding. When you keep doing this, you start recognizing patterns because you're affecting people's brains. And when you do that, you're actually not just a healer, you're also a researcher. And when you take on the role of researcher, you're healing not just people but the system itself. You're providing like data that would allow the system to keep opening up. So that is a reason to open up more when it's the right time. Speak up a bit more, even in closed societies, and then to try out more once it feels safe enough.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's why we are collecting a lot of audio. We are recording the sharings at the end. We are asking to the people to send us audio or writing or messages after 1 week, 2 weeks. We want to understand how this process is changing, increasing or decreasing. So we are interested about it. So we are. I have a lot of recordings. I have a lot of things, and yeah, I would like to sharing with you, translating in English and then send it, and to have it all stored over there. So
yeah,
maybe one day this could be useful. I think.
Yeah. I'm talking to the doctors that there needs to be new books. There are people who are writing possible thesis papers, or I don't know about dissertations, but I think there was even one lady doing a PhD who was looking at inner dance. So they have a way of approaching things that's very systemic. Because when you do research, you do need a big base of like controlled variables and random variables. And like I'm not a trained researcher, and it's really heavy and dense work. But nonetheless, we do have a laboratory happening. So it's a kind of weird science, but nonetheless, I do believe that everyone's a scientist when they have this curiosity and interest in knowing more about like the nature of like who we are and what we are. Yeah. Okay. So anyone would like to speak from a studio's mood? Welcome.
Hey,
Hey, Kim.
hello. Hey, wait. Yeah, I was thinking it would be handy that we would have like some questions, because I'm giving the sleep playlists oftentimes to people but only when they're like really interested, because otherwise they don't give me any feedback. So, so I'm asking for like, can you write me the situation, like why would you want to try this? But it would be kind of interesting if we would have some specific questions that they would be able to formulate an answer after, maybe after 2 weeks, then after a month, like. So now I'm just asking them to keep like diary wise something, and maybe to have like observe your sleep, your food. I don't know, some those things. What comes up when we are speaking. But I thought it would be useful when we could have a document like that. It doesn't have to be super wide, I guess, but like some specific things people could, because sometimes it's not easy for people, like they don't really always know what they should. Yeah, maybe they do. It's really depending, actually. Maybe it really depends on who is trying it out. So yeah.
When
So that
when Dr. Rami and I first were talking about this with some of the other doctors, we were thinking about, okay, would it be like a website or an app? In the beginning, we think, okay, we can commercialize this so that the resources could go back into the system, but it didn't actually seem like such a good idea, because this is the age of Napster, and like it's not really the playlists per se, because even I would say the playlists aren't entirely that good. There could be better ones. So once the one pager or the pamphlet is put out, there could be an online harvesting of exactly what you're saying. There needs to be the questions or the feedback form. We weren't even thinking of the questions. What we were thinking about was when people have a chance to share what's going on, it's an opening. Because we don't want to create shortcuts where, okay, we're going to heal you magically like a silver bullet while you're sleeping. The point is actually so that people could enter the door, and that there's a bigger room where, are you interested in your consciousness, which would be, mirroring like addictions, fear, resistances, judgments, and then there would be a transformation when we see the patterns or the structures. And mothers are opening because the children are in crisis. But then the next step would be, okay, what are we gaining from this? Which is the biggest question would be, what is the nature of our consciousness? But we can't ask that in the questionnaire. It would be like the basic questions. So with the doctors, there's this awareness that if patients get to share their experiences, it's actually the sharing itself, not even the answers. The words matter. So yeah, the data matters for the research, but in terms of the actual healing, there's this huge need to scale this, because the doctors are quite tired from the intensity of the emergency situation, and they can't address this anymore. Even in Europe, like after the pandemic, there's this level of depression, addiction, stress, overwork, hypertension, and then that's translating into physical illness. They're not able to scale. So when they think about vibration as medicine, say, okay, that can scale because it doesn't create dependency. It's non-invasive. It's so we're trying to make sure that this is not exactly the medicine itself. The medicine would also be consciousness becoming conscious of itself. So the vibration would just be the opening. I think the nature of the questions would be interesting, because if they use it, what would probably happen is they would start to dream. They would dream of some things, and then they would be able to remember those dreams, and then they would talk about it. It's already getting recorded because you asked them to. It could be even on WhatsApp, like, doctors could have, okay, record your voice, and then they're voicing it out. They're actually recording their dreams, which is something people should do anyway. But because there was a critical opening, there was, a crisis, they would do it from this level of emergency, and then intention, and then curiosity, openness, and then they become ready. Next thing you know, they're actually attending the inner dance spaces you're holding. So they're experiencing the REM state, not just sleeping, but also awake. And who knows what they will be going through. It might be really, really interesting, or deeper in some ways than what we're used to. We don't know what it would be like. So we hope to maybe think about these more in the coming weeks, now that we're kind of slowing down more. And then we make our way to Europe, and we'll see you guys over there in Brussels and Germany and Antwerp. So I think we should have these by then, maybe even some of the data, so that we're here to dialogue now, more than just get people to explode and to lay down. Building the context right now will then lead to a greater amount of experience that's needing to feel the context inside the system, especially. Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Kara?
Yeah. I just had like a firework moment here with this talk, especially from Kim, because I was like, it's been a while since I've been talking with my brain and the academic brain, like, okay, how do we talk? How do we write about this? And I've been like exposed into research modes and writing these academic essays and dissertations and stuff with methodologies and whatnot. So I had the sense that, okay, it needs to be something that we can, substantiate. We need to have like a clear method, clear methodology around all these things. And then I was considering, if I were to write anything, where would I publish it? In what realm? In what sort of magazine? Because you have the social sciences, you have the more numbery sciences, exact sciences. So there were like many considerations. And then with Kim's question, I was like, this is actually the research, like gathering a group of people and conducting like an assistance and monitoring their experiences over, let's say, a period of 3 or 4 months and 6 months, and then you have the formula, the questionnaire, and you have the playlist, and then you have all the science behind it, and then in the end, voila, you have actually like something that has been. I mean, I know we have been studying all of this, but then I feel that this would be like for the purpose of this this momentum of writing this and writing about it academically. So I'm sending the invitation if any of you nerdies out there want to create a group to start monitoring people and having formularies and questionnaires, so we can come up with something that is like maybe 2 or 3 months or 4 months that we can talk to these people while conducting inner dance with them and gather notes. For this particular purpose of writing something. So I even thought of writing to Doc Romy right now, because he would also like, just because also like what my theme in this science, in this academic realm is the background, like what I know it's something I myself went past a little bit, but if you are going to write something for this purpose, who are you to say that, or what institution are you linked to? So for instance, here in Brazil, you can only publish in certain magazines, in certain journals, if you are linked to a university or to a specific field of study or master degree that is happening at a university. So yeah, all of those questions have been in my mind, and I feel I've just had some ideas and I've just clicked what to do and whom to talk to, and that was it. I've been also experimenting with the, as always, experimenting, but with the sleep playlist myself for this past week, and I'm still just sleeping more and more. It's crazy. So like I don't know what happens with my clock. It's just like I sometimes have the feeling that I was born to be in the multidimensional REM state with my eyes closed, and that is all I came here to do. So yeah, I've been then interested in diving more into the REM and the particularities of it. What would distinguish, and maybe this is also because I'm creating content for next trainings, but like what would distinguish REM from N1 and N2, and specifically when we say that we are beginning to hold or sustain more the REM stages while being awake, what would that clearly represent or entail in terms of, would we actually be seeing things with our eyes closed more often? And this is interesting, like, you know, like what is not there, like usually in dreams. And this interests me because I am one of those that sometimes see things that are not there in this thing. So is that something, like, maybe my question here, my inner question here is like, when I am seeing those things, which part, like, is that REM, is that N1, is that N2, what part of the brain, or what stage of this all is this, am I living and experiencing, considering also, yeah, the brain waves, and yeah, many things. And yeah, I guess this is it. Sorry, I had chocolates. I'm a little bit jumpier than usual. So yeah, thank you. Thank you all.
Cocoa power, cacao power. Yeah, this is so it's exciting. It's also trepidating, if that isn't, not even sure if that's a word, but I think it's a word that describes this. It's intimidating. That's a more usable one. I I've been thinking about this, like we've been thinking about this. So I'm not sure if I have the research capacity. You're more academic than I am, historically. So I'm not even sure if I can write about inner dance in a journal, but because the testing methods that are applicable there would be quite. So what I'm sensing is, okay, we've done the work, the it's kind of clear what this could do, and then the doctors could also give this a try. So then the researchers would, what I've been avoiding, but what is long up and coming, are the machines. Not just machines that produce the sound, but machines that measure the sound. So there was some excitement, like even in the last year, over some of these more portable ones. I've been waiting for cheaper ones to be available that you can wear. That's not just an eye watch, that can have an EEG element. Because if we're going to talk about like REM, what the only thing we can do right now in inner dance is to witness the manifestation. So you listen to the body, you read the body, you're looking at the eyes moving. That's obviously, by strict definition, rapid eye movement. Okay, you're in REM. Maybe when someone's awake, ask them, okay, close your eyes, let me measure you. Okay, you're in REM, it's blinking. So we're able to at least map out if certain things are happening in the occipital lobe. Okay, visions. Parietal lobe, that's somatosensory. That's when you get the prickling sensations or energy passing through. Emotions is in the insular cortex. Memories is in the temporal lobe. Frontal lobe is when the body's moving, when someone's doing light language. We can do that without an EEG. but I think we have to either wait for those who have the machines, whether it be the fMRI. The machines are one, and then what would be the bridge was how do we interpret the data? There were these people who were plugging people into machines, and then they were getting zapped by Kundalini. Then they were getting excited. Oh my God, we're getting gamma, getting gamma. But gamma actually shows up if you eat chocolate. Gamma would show up if you're watching a movie. So what is missing is a theory. There needs to be a theory that interprets the data. So I think where we can come in, Gra and everyone else, is we can at least we can be theorists. Because a lot of the people who write in journals, they're basically empiricists. The data is empirical. It's like to see it is to believe it. And when you deal with that kind of audience, you will get pulled into like a Cartesian, like Descartes. I cogito ergo sum. Like you're thinking, therefore you are. It kind of inverts, because in a spiritual experience, you are, then you do, then you think, then you speak. I think theory would be where we would want to be in. That's accessible for us, maybe that would spark something, because the journals aren't really into theory. Where theorists get published, they write books, they compose a thought, and that thought could either be in a lecture, it could be in the real theorists, they really write books about this. The more casual theorists would just give a talk, and that would get recorded. And that's not real theory in many regards, in the critical theory sense. They would just be making conjectures, but it's not epistemological in nature, that it would meet where the peers are at. It's not speaking to it's not correspondent. It could be coherent, but if it's not correspondent, it's not regarded as theory. And if it's not theory, it can't actually weave into systemic practice. Mm. So yeah, I think this is an interesting topic. Like what is our boundary? Where can we contribute? So that the ones who are empiricists, which I do find important, we're not scared. Okay, measure it, because we're interested in what we would find out. But how would we help them come up with an interpretation that is beyond some of the explanations in, let's say, the dream science, or the science and psychosis, or emotion, or what is even like a theory of transformation, because this is a word people use often. My life changed, but what do you actually mean? What does it mean that someone is transforming? So to bring coherence to that already could be a kind of thesis. That needs to be contextualized within like a situation, a time of the world, a specific place. You'd hold the boundary around that. Anyway, yeah, exciting stuff. Okay. We have a Brazilian arriving tomorrow. I don't know if you know her. Ines. Is she your person? No. Another one. I can't hear you. You have to unmute. Wait, we can't hear you. Yeah, you're not unmuted. Wait, are you unmuted? Maybe it's me. I can't hear you. It's weird. Now you're unmuted, but there's no sound. Maybe it's just me, but your lips are moving. No, it's nothing. Yeah, we
Nobody
can.
can hear her.
You
There's
can.
no sound.
Yeah, we can't hear you. You can write it down, Gra. Finding your blue. Okay. Anyone else would like to speak as she sorts out her voice chakra? Yeah. All these interesting things. Anyone? You have 30 minutes for the 3-hour mark. Just checking in, whatever's happening in your location.
Okay, maybe I'll share. Not super comfortable, maybe with, I've shared a little bit with Pi already, but I got like suddenly kind of confused with the last session, the live session I participated with 2 days ago. So it's just that I'm just like trying to get my head wrapped around it, and I feel that it's actually there, but I think in one way there suddenly I got into some expectation mode or something. So yeah, I just need to let it integrate a bit more, but it's just that with the new playlist, but actually it's not only with the new playlist, it's just like for the last months in myself when I journey on my own. It's just that I feel a lot, but I feel so much, but it has nothing to do with like with my emotions, or it's just like I can just feel like the energy that is penetrating me, my body and my brain, and like the whole aura field around me, and it's super nice. But so yeah, it's just I feel that is also like a part of a shift that's happening within myself, and I suddenly got like a lot of questions around it, and then I'm trying to look for answers, but sometimes I just need to be like more patient to I know they will come from within. So yeah, so yeah, it's still super interesting, of course, and I also see that the bodies that I'm holding, they never move a lot. They have never done they have never done a lot of movements, but the experiences are super deep, and it's really nice. And I will only started to share the inner dance with like the playlists from the started from the inner intensive, so the ones that were already kind of layered. So yeah, maybe that's what I wanted to share.
Yeah, part of data. Thank you. Okay, yeah, anyone else? And then we can close soon. What's up, or down, or left, or right, or in or out or in.
I can do something.
Ailey, yeah.
Hi. Just have my camera off because we got into load shedding now, so no lights. So something interesting happens in our training this weekend, where we were actually going to play a journey for the participants, but because there were we've actually got 4 people in our training, but the one wasn't there, and it was quite a small group, and quite spontaneously we decided to instead of doing a journey, we decided to do I had actually prepared these like a long time ago, so they're quite like old, so there's that element to it. But like we decided to play these half-an-hour playlists that are used, the intention behind them was to just practice, like to do like a, where we get the, like the student to practice, like practice facilitating. And this half an hour playlist, I made a few of them a couple of years ago, and they're basically like the 12 stages, but like condensed into this half an hour experience. And it was actually quite amazing how deep a lot of us went. And what actually happened, also really unplanned, is that Ali and I decided to actually lie down and get the students to facilitate on us, which also was not planned. It was like, so we kind of like to switch things around and try different things. And yeah, like one of the things that we were speaking about afterwards was just like, maybe it won't work for everybody, but certainly I found it quite powerful to go into a half an hour process. Like I was able to drop in very quickly. Yeah, so just curious about that. Like, I guess, yeah, I don't really have a question. It was more just like a sharing on that, and just, yeah, just how deep it went, and how quick like the process actually took place. It felt like, especially the one, it felt like it was an hour or longer, and it was, it was only like 28 minutes or 30 minutes. So it was just something that was quite interesting, in amongst other really interesting things that happened. But that was just, something that took place. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is up and coming for us too. Certainly in my space, I'm seeing that the 90-minute rule doesn't really apply anymore, particularly as the playlists are changing. But it's not that; it's more of how much more optimal and efficient the human brain has become. Like 3 years ago, and then 2 years ago, last year, like 10 years ago. But the pandemic did something to the brain, and it continues to do something. So people are so much more careful with their time. It's more optimized. So maybe if there were papers written on this, it could hold a question: what is circadian rhythmicity in 2023 in South Africa, or in in Poland, in Ukraine, in the tropics? It's probably not, the rhythm probably isn't the same. So maybe we're able to access dream time in like an inception, like in a dream within a dream state, where what is 10 minutes today might have been like an hour, like 3 years ago, and then it's exponential the farther you go back. Certainly in the trainings that I used to do many years ago, what takes me, let's say, 20 minutes or 30 minutes to go over, for some reason it took like a whole day or 2 days. I mean, Lee, you were in some of those old trainings. That's kind of loopier, spacey in a way, where you need to say a lot of words to talk about the same thing. And in the substitution or the paraphrasing, you're actually saying a lot, but there's a need to go around in circles to arrive at the point. So I think we've been running around in circles as a humanity for a long time, and the more we kept doing that, we're arriving to the point. So because of the way especially technology is. And thank you, Ali, for the voice note you sent on the power, the element of power in South Africa that's going through an energy crisis. We're channeling the energy differently. So it's funny, was I was supposed to do an online. I had to show up online for a training that was happening for the Bulgarians. It was Maria Dimitrova that was holding it, and she was in Mallorca at the time. And Palawan is kind of similar to Cape Town right now, where there's these power outages regularly. So I shouldn't really be in the city when I do these calls. In Maya, it's 24/7. We have power, but in the city you don't. And right before the call was set to happen, I was trying to log on to Zoom. It wouldn't work. And then I was trying to work with the audio interface. It wouldn't work. Nothing worked. And that was the first time it took place. There was like a glitch electricity wise in the system. And then boom, boom, the light went out. And then I tried to contact Maria to ask, okay, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? The system's not working. And then it turned out that she lost her phone at that very moment. So there was something about the communication line that got cut. And 5 minutes before the training was to start, the lights went back on. She found her phone, and we went online. So I didn't feel to do the playlist live anymore. So she said, okay, let me just play synchronic. No, she didn't know synchronic. Said, okay, let me send you a playlist and let's let people lay down to it and see what they say. So, but I had to do the dialogue in the dark, and people were like, wow, he's this mystery person. You can't see him. He's like, everything's black. Later, the light went on. Maybe the 10 minutes of the last part of the dialogue. But there was something in that moment when the lights went out, when time seemed to really slow down, and we got to focus on the nature of the questions people were holding. That was really really amazing. So it was quite late, so that by the time they started the session, where they would just press play and synchronic, it was maybe 2:30 o'clock. I'm not gonna stay up for that, so I said, okay, I'll be present so that when they do sharing, I'll be there. So I had my phone on and synchronic was playing. So I fell asleep on synchronic the first time that actually happened. So I haven't used that for sleeping. And it really just took me somewhere. So I think there's something about being given access to fossil fuels, oil, modernity, cosmopolitanism, power, and then when that's taken away, like in the playlist, when there's like a buildup, a peak or a rise, and then when there's like a drop, there's something about the exchange or the contrast, the transition or the difference between high and low, fast and slow, that allows us to access time differently. So that if everything was just happening fast all the time, we wouldn't actually know the difference. So I think there's something about the bipolarity of Cape Town and South Africa in general that's had to normalize being powered up and powered down. That's going to be doing something to people's brains. So definitely one of them would be an optimization of your tasks, because if you're only able to do certain things within a certain power range during the day, I mean, if you don't have that much resources anyhow, and you don't have generators and the money for gasoline, I think you'd have to think differently. So you'd still have some access, but because you won't have access, I think South Africa would be the canary in the coal mine, or it would be like a proto manifestation of what the world will be going through maybe 20 years or 30 years from now, when we are asked to simplify. I think we're being fed a lot of information that holds time somehow, and then when the peak oil really comes into effect, and some countries would experience it ahead of time. Something would happen to our brains so that the playlists would not be the same. The playlists that would be applicable also in schools and in hospitals, and the spiritual mechanism. Maybe we'll get there sooner, up until a point where we're never not there even. Maybe that's the whole point. So I think there's something to what you're saying. It's not just talking about length. I'm trying to read this from a situation that's very, very present there. Floor, you raise your hand.
Yeah, I want to share after what Lee was saying. I'm sorry, can't do my video. I'm not in my optimal look. I'm still recovering right now from a deep flu. Um, there's something about playing the a very short playlist. I have not done that in normal sessions, but in the trainings, definitely do it all the time. Also, maybe because I only get to do 3-day immersions all the time, and there might be the element of rush or short schedules, but this is something I've been doing since the simple playlisting time, the iTunes playlisting time in 2017, where I would play maybe even 15 to 18 minutes, almost less than 20. And what I noticed is that because they're already very open and is already very deep in the process, that the 90 minutes don't seem to be necessary all the time. Most especially if it's like an exchange of one-on-one sessions between the participants, or when I ask them to facilitate themselves. Usually in trainings, I don't facilitate the people so much. But there's something very powerful about this short playlisting, and especially before with the old way wherein I would just stop and play the next song, stop and play the next song, but just making sure to have the wave of the 12 stages per song. But there's the stop play, and one thing I've noticed is that the participants seem to gather their experiences more concisely, like they remember almost everything that I experience, and they drop in very, very, very fast. That's one thing that I've noticed, and I still do that up to this time, to play playlists very, very short. And one thing as well that I find very powerful is, as Lee said, I do it all the time as well, especially on the third day, that I lie down and I let everyone facilitate me, actually. That's something that I find very interesting. And I don't know if you remember it, Pai, but you said it a long time ago to me, like, let them facilitate you. Something powerful about that. So I actually do it all the time. On the third day, most especially in the last half day, like almost everyone would be able to facilitate me because I would lie down on the two groups, and it actually gives them a very fast boosted confidence for some reason to facilitate. And yeah, that's just what I want to share.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, you sound really tired. You need to rest. I'm gonna send the group like this video of the festival of you painting in Costa Rica that Andre sent me. It's like really amazing work. I think we can close with this because it ties together a lot of what opened up with Mario's initial questions that led us into the nature of the loop, the line, managing vibration, sound, sampling, the sounds of the universe. The work that we do is about constructing a journey for people, whether it be the journey of a person or the journey of an earth, a species, or the universe, the galaxy, an atom, a molecule, a quark, an idea, a dream. They're all going through like a wave process. That's what a dream is. It's a journey of a wave that allows us to remember what isn't just our story. It creates distances so we could travel far and see more from a big picture space. Now, historically, one of the reasons why the inner dance is so long is because of the songs. So there's something about switching between songs. So what we're talking about is textural differences between, like, let's say a classical music song and a Guns N' Roses track and like a pop song and something EDM, something meditative. Bring those together, you have a journey, because across the genres, you actually get to travel across different cultural spaces or historicist spaces, different concepts, different emotions even. So the crossing genres was important. The translation between those genres is what makes them important themselves, not just isolating them in and of themselves. There's something about the contrast or the switch between the tempo, the texture, and the tonality of all of these, holding, different rules depending on if this come from India, Mongolia, or this, era. But for many reasons, the best songs were long. They were the ones with a very, very slow build up from, deep delta. And maybe at the time, 2008, 2009, when all of these were beginning to get constructed, when the iPod was really new. If you remember the screen, the touch iPod, not iPhone, not iPad, but and they weren't basic. They were basic, but they weren't basic anymore. They're screen based, but you couldn't put apps in it yet, so you could, like scroll through the screen, which was really cool. Choose a song, press play, and then it would play. And then the apps would later come, and we would manipulate the sound a lot, giving the facilitator more control. But before that, we were dependent on these long tracks by Banco de Gaia, by Pongo. They were really, really amazing songs, but they would last for maybe 10 to 15 minutes. That's why we would drop it. And when we realized we could drop it, there was something about the drop from beta, gamma towards delta. It's called the delta drop, that unleashed or released the pent up emotion that did experience the build up during the N1 and 2 stages of the wake REM cycle before the N3 drop. So those two were important. Like diversity between genres was important so that you can construct a journey, and then to use these ones that had the build up, you had to wait it out. Because when they didn't come with apps before, if you chose like a really good song there would be this long intro, and then it would rise up, and you had to wait. And it was really effective the way it was building up, but sometimes it was actually too long. And some people were already kind of there, and some people were not, because that was early on in the days. So now people are more open these days, and there's more vibrations, there's more information taking place across the internet. People are wired, lifestyles are different, consumption, patterns are not the same. Virtual reality is not the same, where the people who used to be millennials and are now kind of age, they're not operating in the same tempo, velocity, or speed. There's now perfectly new tools, new energy situations to match where people are at. So you don't need to wait certain things out. And for that reason, we're needing to, in fact, create music that's primarily for inner dance, like inner dance, or the kind of work that we do. The kind of work that we do deserves its own genre. There's a different set of build-ups, and so what would be like a journey that you can construct that would hold enough diversity? It wouldn't just be like a rave party set, which could last an hour, but it's pretty monochromatic, meaning it's the same blips and like synth sounds. You need to guide people through many emotions. So you need to construct that. But if you can do that more effectively, I don't think then we need as much time to take people there. I think we can dream quicker and longer, not in the so-called spiritual process itself. Sometimes the most spiritual is not in the spiritual activity, it's in the spiritual being. So giving people less dependency and something long would allow them the independence to let the energy rise up or be constructed from within, so that we're not holding anything addictive anymore. I think that's maybe why this is being spoken and why this is coming up. So yeah, I'm really happy with this last piece. I think it really ties together with there's something about what was initially talked about in the beginning of this call, and then the way this call is ending. That's the serpent eating its own tail. It's the Ouroboros. It's palingenesis. It's the beginning is the end. Thank you for that. Okay, so it's almost 5. We have a long day here. Thank you for the loopy loops. Really good space to do that kind of circularity. So let's unmute, say good nights, good mornings.
Sweet dreams.
And oh, perfect. Yeah.
Thank you all.
Yes,
Thank
and
Good night.
Sweet
Thank you
dreams.
for the loop.
Bye.
Nice. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.